What's up, YouTube? Silver Dragons here, and today we're going to be talking about the inflation numbers that just came out for December of 2021. Looks like the CPI has risen to 7%. However, gold and silver are not moving that much at the moment. Gold is up to $18.24 an ounce, silver just over $23 an ounce. So this is really interesting. I mean, inflation is the highest it's been in around 40 years. However, people aren't flocking to precious metals like they have done in the past. So anyway, let's go over this article and then I'll share some of my thoughts on the subject. So it starts off by saying gold prices are holding gains above 1,800, but is struggling to gain some bullish traction as consumer price pressure rises more than expected in December. Wednesday, the U.S. Labor Department said its U.S. Consumer Price Index rose 0.5% in last month after a 0.8% rise in November. The data beat consensus forecasts as economists were forecasting a 0.4% rise. For the year, the report said that headline inflation rose 7.0%. Annual inflation rose in line with expectations. The report said that inflation is at its highest level since June 1982. Meanwhile, core CPI, which strips out food and energy cost, increased 0.6% in December, up from a 0.5% increase in November. Economists were expecting to see an increase of 0.5%. So this is interesting. Both the CPI and core CPI have gone up faster than the economists were expecting to see. So inflation is worse. I mean, it is worse compared to last year. It's worse compared to last month. So, I mean, inflation is still going up at this point. We haven't leveled out. It's not going down. And yet, people still aren't flocking to the precious metals. Very interesting. So it goes on to say, for the year, core inflation rose 5.5%, the largest 12-month change since the period ending February 1991, the report said. All right. The latest inflation data is having little impact on gold. Spot gold prices last traded at $18.1960 an ounce, down 0.12% on the day. These numbers are now incorrect. Since the article came out, gold is actually up around $2. Still not a huge change, but be that as it may, they say some analysts said that gold is not seeing much reaction to the latest inflation data because markets were expecting to see a much hotter report. The market was particularly fearful ahead of this report, and that's coming out now, with the numbers generally in line with estimates, though a touch higher, said Adam Button, chief currency strategist at forexlive.com. Catherine Judge, senior economist at CIBC, said that the latest inflation data continues to support the Federal Reserve's push to raise interest rates. Markets expect the U.S. Central Bank to raise rates as early as March and see 4 increases this year. My goodness. Okay, now I'm going to tell you what I think's going on. Okay, so the first reason I think that precious metals prices aren't exploding right now is that this is basically what the markets expected would happen. This is no huge surprise. If data comes out and it is really surprising, then we could see a huge move one way or the other. That being said, the US dollar index was down today, which is why I think silver went up. As you can see, USD index down 0.68%. And of course, because silver is inversely correlated to the dollar, we see silver go up. I think that's pretty easy to understand. I have talked about that before in videos in the past. But the second reason that I think that gold and silver are not exploding right now is that there are a lot of people out there who believe that inflation is going to go down. It's going to be taken care of. The Fed will be successful in their attempts to lower inflation. I mean, Jerome Powell just had a speech yesterday in which he said they're going to aggressively fight it. So we know they're going to be raising rates. We know this will have some effect on the economy. We know this will have likely some effect on inflation. I mean, I don't think we're in runaway inflation. No one is predicting it's going to go to 10, 20% next year. I mean, if that does happen, then we've got huge problems on our hands. But I don't think we're in big inflation. We're not in hyperinflation. I mean, we are seeing records. It's very interesting. 40-year high for inflation, and yet people aren't panicking. There's this whole, it's just the supply chain issues. We're going to fix that. We're going to raise rates. Everything's going to be fine. There's nothing to worry about. Well, there are some things to be worried about. I mean, the U.S. national debt continues to go up. The government continues to spend money, and that's not going to stop anytime soon. So we are going to have more inflation down the road. Is that going to be 7%, 5%, 10%? I personally don't know. I do think that their efforts will have some effect. Eventually, inflation is likely to come down to some degree, but when will that be? How drastic will that be? I don't know. So all that being said, I think that the biggest thing that's going to affect gold and silver prices moving forward is going to be the rate hikes. And I just did a video with Lior Gantz in which we talked about that extensively. He's very knowledgeable on these subjects. If you missed that video, definitely go check it out. I'll put a link up in the corner as well as a link down below in the description of this video. Now, the final thing I want to say about inflation is this. Back in 2020, when the government started creating obscene amounts of currency, I did a bunch of videos on inflation. I was talking about how it was going to hit us really hard. You can't create all this currency without consequences. And there was a lot of economists out there saying this is not going to have a huge effect. It's not going to be a big deal. We're not really going to see inflation numbers go up that much. The government already predicts a 2% inflation. It's no big deal. Well, they were completely wrong. So the first thing they did was just completely deny it. Next, they said inflation was transitory. It's going to go up and it's going to go right back down. No big deal. Well, they were completely wrong about that as well. So could they be completely wrong this time when a lot of them out there are actually predicting it's going to level off and go back down? I suppose they could be. And what about supply chain issues getting worse? Are there other factors out there that could make them worse? I suppose there are. I mean, I don't know exactly how all of this is going to pan out, but either way, I'm really happy that I have my stack of gold and silver here to protect me. So whatever happens to the dollar, I'm going to be okay at the end of the day. And if you're not stacking gold, if you're not stacking silver, you should really consider buying some physical precious metals yourself so you have this wealth protection no matter what happens down the road. Anyway, I do want to say a massive thank you for watching my video, and I will see you all in the next one. Silver Dragons out.